All In was a magical night full of drama and friendship, but mostly drama. Let's talk about it. Welcome to WatchaMania, y'all. I'm your host, Advi Devin, here with the Gablash podcast. And it's nice to be able to bring this bad boy back and struggling to decide on a splash screen, so do expect that to possibly change in the future. But for now, this is what we're rolling with. Hope everyone's doing good either now or in the future if you're watching this on playback. But oh man, dude, we got a lot to talk about in the world of wrestling. I thought this was going to be at least a little bit more of a versatile podcast up until the show happening, where we had once again another Punk situation. And not for nothing, it's getting really old. It's getting really old because, I mean, pretty much since he's come back, we've been hearing the stories in one way or another. If you're keeping up with wrestling news, then you're understanding how this is happening. And this is one way or another an issue between Punk and someone else, or Punk trying to solve a problem and an issue arises out of it. So this is where we have to really try to decide, is Punk the problem or not? Right? So, for those of you not in the know, last night, shortly before CM Punk went out the curtain, in other words, pretty much the start of the official show, Jack Perry and CM Punk got into an altercation. And Angry Phil did it again. There you go. Exactly, Cam. Welcome, by the way. Nice to see you. Yeah, he did it again. There was some sort of confrontation right before the curtain. There's multiple sides of the story reported by Fightful Select. But one side of the story specifically has a naysayer in the form of Miro. And that's interesting because all around the same time as Brawl Out, yeah, pretty much. We're roughly 51 weeks out from the last incident. And if you include the injury time, Manta's been back 2.5 months, just over 2 months. His return, June 17th, the first Collision. We've had 11 episodes of Collision, and this man is suspended. So now we get to see what a CM Punkless Collision looks like next Saturday. How goes, Dara? Welcome. Appreciate you swinging in. We're just getting started talking about, the thing on everybody's mind, the black cloud looming over the magic that was All In, and that is Brawl In, bruv. Once he gets suspended again, under 3 months. And it didn't even take him that long to have an issue, A lot of people were really starting to get the impression that he was trying to shoot himself into an angle with the elites, with the things that he was saying and doing in his promos, the counterfeit Bucks line when he returned, things like that. I myself was holding out hope that was what is going to become just that, but unfortunately, doesn't seem to be the case, because the elite are only getting more and more distant as a result of his actions, and this Jack Perry situation stems from a conflict they had a few weeks ago. Now, those of you who are like mainstays here in the WatchaMania community, you're probably familiar with this situation in some way, but I'm going to reiterate it for those who may just be finding this or doing something along those lines. Hold on one second, just double checking. Also, one quick before I really get into it, please do drop a thumbs up on this video if y'all could be so kind. Really helps get us boosted when we're trying to help people find this in case they're looking for something along these lines. Somebody on this level trying to really what's the word I'm looking for? Aggregate these details to them. So what was this? So yes, a few weeks ago, a segment was to be taped at Collision between Jack Perry and Hook that was supposed to be used for their feud. In that segment, Real Glass was pitched to be used by none other than Jack Perry. Jack Perry wanted to go through some glass, and that be the way to write him off TV for a week. CM Punk didn't like the idea that he wanted to use this real glass to get him out of this situation, and there were other people who admittedly did not want him using the real glass. And when you isolate that issue, that makes sense. You can use some worked glass. There's no need to have to use the shoot glass in that situation. And added criteria, if he's just trying to do that so he can have the excuse of not coming to work the next week, well then that's not fair, right? Like, why are you trying to skip out of work when so many people are working so hard to be where you're at, or even a fraction of where you're at? Well, as it turned out, one Jack Perry had planned timed off. So this would have fit perfectly into that, because he was going to be gone anyway, so now there is a justifiable reason for him to be gone. Now, granted, again, you don't have to use real glass for that, but the whole conflict, the argument between the two, if you will, that got out from Punk's people, funny enough, feeding the dirt sheets, the thing Punk doesn't like. We got Jack Perry looking like he pitched a bitch fit over this whole situation. We're 5 minutes in, can I say that? Yeah. Made him look like he threw a temper tantrum over it, when that, at least in Jack Perry's eyes, was not the case. So Punk gets his way, we don't do that on Saturdays. You can keep that on Wednesdays if you like. So really drawing that line very transparently did Punk. He needs to stop being an egomaniac and calm down. Yes, 100%, because that's what this is really starting to come off like. Punk knows best, and if you don't agree, then you don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. I want to be like RVD when I reach my 50s. Stoned and having a good time. Right? Like, why can't you be like that, man? You don't need to be all up involved in shit like this. When it's absolute nonsense, honestly. At least in most regards, yeah, it's just absolute nonsense. Well, anyways, that situation was that. Let it be, and it got out making Jack Perry look bad. The way I just described it to you, right? It seemed like Punk was almost reasonable in that situation. Even I was hearing that, I'm like, it's really hard to give Punk flack for that, other than the fact that he got up in his face about it. Now, it all makes sense, especially given what's happened last night, which, again, I'm going to get to in a moment. Punk, I will admit, Perry didn't need to go out of his way to take the shot directly into the camera. And also, there was a face-to-face confrontation between the two. I'm pretty sure that was avoidable in some degree. I won't get into that. Wasn't there. Don't know. Probably never will. With him saying that, though, however, that exasperates the issue. And that was what leads us to the confrontation, which happened moments before Punk went out the curtain. In fact, the production staff was scrambling to try and find a way to hold up the start of the show in case Punk wasn't able to go on right away, which is very interesting if you think about it, because according to Punk's camp, the people who on Punk's side who have put the story out supposedly choked out Jack Perry. He was getting choked. He punched him in the face, got him in a choke. However, back to Collider Miro, mind you, the one who's been featured on Collision week in and week out, save for that 1 week, he's saying no, that didn't happen. He's saying the side that Punk's story is false. So to get into the Fightful Select report, could have said, I got a match, see ya, and walked away. Like, right, that's what I'm saying. Like, whoever initiated, regardless of whoever initiated the conflict, the person who was on the other side of that had the choice to try and walk away, and they didn't, And so, like, that's what I'm trying to be clear about here, is that I'm not trying to excuse Jack Perry's behavior in any of this. But then you also have to put things in perspective a little, and you're like, wow, you see Punk, who's been up and down these roads for 20 plus years, and then you got Jack Perry, who's barely been in this business for 5-10 years at most, if you're counting low grade indies that he probably really got started on. He's still young. People are brash when they're young. I know CM Punk was brash when he was young. So you almost comparatively can excuse that in that regard. And again, trying to, according to several sources, both are going to be suspended after this. I think that's the right decision. Jack Perry shouldn't get off scot-free, but I do think that if Jack Perry is being punished, CM Punk absolutely should be punished, because the situation stems back to when Punk got in his face to begin with over this whole glass situation, when he didn't have to be the guy to do that. But my understanding is he was asked to talk to him. So that situation may have been provoked by whoever asked him to talk to him, possibly one TK. Whether it was Dynamite TK, Collision TK, Ring of Honor TK, we don't know. But TK did it. He asked. So here in the report, Miro claimed that the Punk side of the story was fake and untrue, and the fact that Miro is directly referenced in this report tells me that this was said publicly in some regard. I didn't see any posts whatsoever myself. But yeah, does that mean glass spots are banned from AEW? No, I don't think so. It's definitely going to be a spot that'll have to get permission like it always was, which is even funnier when you think about it, because that means that spot got approved. On Twitter, you saw it? All right, thank you, Cam. Appreciate that. I have not been up and down Twitter much since the show, admittedly. I was fully transparent. On the wave of the AEW hype, hopped on Fight Forever and played that for like 5 hours. Call it what you want. Yeah, this is Punk's second suspension. If you look back at the people who were suspended before Punk, half of them ended up getting fired. Or X. Nice. Yes. So, yes, Miro claimed it was fake and untrue. And that's, shout out to the real one. Because, like, I can't imagine Miro's going to be so down with Jack Perry that he's going to skewer the truth in his favor, You would expect that with Punk, because Punk can apply that kind of pressure with his leverage. Jack Perry could do no such thing. Okay, you gotta be either down for the cause or just transparently real to call out his situation in Miro's position, and he did. So shout out to him. And if we never see him on Collision again, we can no longer blame Tony Khan for that. But that being said, I have a feeling that come next Saturday, we're going to be seeing more Miro than CM Punk, which is actually a very nice thing. Build the show around Miro. Fucking why not, right? I mean, keep the same vibe of Collision you've been going with. Just like build it with the same cast. You know what they've been trying to do? The small, succinct cast. And then just from there, you can just build it around them some more, Don't make is the Bang Bang Gang show, you know what? Also true. Make it about Jay White. Make it about Ricky Starks. Oh my gosh, where's Ricky Starks' program gonna go now? Oh my gosh. Yes, more Hobbs. I think that's the thing, is Punk's not gonna be on TV taking up 40 minutes for the next at least couple of weeks. So we get to see what Collision looks like without him, and hopefully it looks better. I have a feeling it will, but I also have a feeling there's going to be a fair amount of detractors / Punk fanatics who are going to try and say that it was worse without him. So to continue on the report. So apparently, immediately after the situation, Jack Perry was sent away from the venue, and Punk was there for a time, but then eventually asked to leave as well. My speculation, is that that's because he had the match to work immediately afterwards, then cool down after the match, which you should naturally have. Anybody should naturally have that ability to wind down unless they're still going to be working immediately afterwards, and then it doesn't take long. You're shower, pack your stuff, kind of thing. I don't mean like sitting and chilling for an hour. And then probably had to answer a few questions, because they were probably his side of the story they wanted to get before, in terms of the investigation that was mentioned. Give us 2 women's match on Saturday. There you go. I'm with Dara here. Throw all the women. Come on. Bring Saraya over to Collision. Let's rock that house. We can also build the Ruby Soho, Chris Statlander program. Let's bring up some women from Ring of Honor. Let's give Athena a match. Just give that whole hour to the women. Here's your chance, TK. So, yes. So, this was Punk's side of things, which claims that Jack Perry approached CM Punk backstage, stepped in his face. Here, I'm going to move this over so I'm not looking so far off the screen. But yeah, apparently he stepped to Punk, bumped him, and Punk shoved him, and from there on, skirmish broke out, chokehold applied of a front face lock is what was seemed to be the chokehold going around in other stories. Here on Fightful Select, they say they haven't heard of a particular choke, so not sure about this one. And yes, that is only one side of the story. And other accounts claim that Punk initiated things, that they exchanged words, Punk got in Perry's face, and even pie-faced him, which that sounds like a much stronger instigation of a confrontation. Now, like, here's the thing, right? As soon as Perry said something into the camera, I didn't catch that when it first happened. Other people told me in the chat after we found out about the altercation. If I had heard that in the moment, I immediately would have been like, he's getting in trouble for that with Punk or someone else, you know? And if Punk didn't do anything about it, you could have easily had Perry, you had to slap on the wrist, sent home for a week, or even fined a bit, because that's instigating a situation where you know it will be caused, you know? So that, in a way, is a punishable offense. But Punk didn't leave it at that. And he could have very clearly, like, he had the full leverage to leave it at that. And if this whole situation has been some sort of narrative painted by Punk dating back to the first altercation in June or July or whatever, then that means he's really been manipulating the narrative, and he could have gotten away with doing so if he had not approached Perry, or even walked away in the case of Perry approaching him. So that just seems absurd to me. That goes to show that he is still brash in some ways. He is still very arrogant, as Dara mentioned earlier in the chat. This is a bad situation for CM Punk. And honestly, worse for AEW, because it's getting harder and harder to justify keeping this guy around. You just had a $10 million gate and you're coming back here next year. Are you telling me Punk needs to be on that card when he wasn't even announced to return until like a month after the show was announced? Which means there was already like 40,000 to 50,000 tickets sold to said show. He's not needed. He is not needed to do this, okay? It's cool to have, in a perfect world where CM Punk is not this problematic individual, it is amazing to have this veteran CM Punk on your roster to help the young wrestlers learn, to help get over the up-and-coming wrestlers, and to help put on bangers or even put over current main eventers. And maybe it gets that Golden World title run. That didn't have to be the way it happened earlier last year, where he took the title off of Hangman, in my opinion, too soon. I think it could have been a longer journey, and it could have been a nice, good 2-3 month swan song of a reign, if you will. You know, it doesn't have to be the year-long reign that he had in WWE, but it'd be the unhindered world title reign he never got to have. Because even when you think back to that historic title reign he had with the WWE title, he dropped it to The Rock. And a lot of people, and myself included, felt like that shouldn't have happened, and it should have been Cena Punk again, probably in like an Iron Man match or something at WrestleMania that year. Or, if nothing else, a triple threat including The Rock, where Punk walks in as champion. Like, that's because it was set up from the SummerSlam the year prior. But ultimately, Punk has gone on this descent. I don't want to say into madness. That feels a little too dramatic. But he has definitely really damaged his character with everything that he's done here. And I dare say irreversible. And that's coming from the guy who was laughing at his self-aware spot last night in his match against Joe, where he straight up did the 5 moves of doom, ending off on a Hogan leg drop, only to have Joe hulk up on him because he was the heel after all. And it's kind of wild, because it's like, what is he getting at? Like, is this really just like a play at attention or something? Oh my gosh. Why would they do that? Was it because it was a real E-Fed? Told Taekwondo to cry him a river? That must be it. But like, you see how silly this sounds, right? Like, when you put it in the context, when you apply it to 2 other people about a different situation, it's like, what? So, I don't know. I felt like we needed to get that out of the way because this was a fantastic show. And this pales in comparison to last year's situation. So I feel like it would be well of us to not allow it to consume what this show was, you know? Because I'm sure you could look back at WrestleMania 1 or 2, even, depending on how you want to range all in. And, sorry, I'm hearing some weird clicking. Oh, I see. Never mind. It's rain. Apologies. Um, Completely lost my train of thought as a result of that. Apologies. Rough. Oh yes, but there was like whether you look back at like WrestleMania 1 or 2, I'm sure there were issues there that either could have been avoided, and if it was in a digital age such as this one, it would have been put on last all the same. But it wasn't. And you could compare this to like the Brett Shawn situation, but that was a different era than the one I'm referencing here. So I'm not sure how well that applies in terms of uh, metaphor. But regardless, something else I want to talk about with this show. I was right. At least as of right now, I'm right. Adam Cole didn't turn baby. Man, did he heal the hell out, though. Did he not? Oh, man. Some of the things he did in that match. Okay, first off, he took some gnarly, gritty shots just to start off. He returned an eye pluck, which admittedly, from MJF, is what kicked off the whole thing, you know? And it's kind of wild, because that right there, in hindsight, takes me back to a few weeks ago when Adam Cole brought out MJF, and it was... and brought out MJF. And MJF was mistaken, thinking, oh, we're gonna have a promo battle. All right, let's do it. No, you're so pale and skinny, and just like completely started ripping on him. And then Adam goes, no, that's not what I meant. And like, but then you think back to that spot where God is like, eye pluck, because that was just MJF instinct, eye pluck. And he was like, oh, okay, all right. That was my bad. That was my bad. And then Adam Cole just got up. He just ended with, oh, we're doing this already, huh? So he started fighting him like he was an enemy. And every now and then it took a second and was like, oh man, what am I doing here? But then got right back to it. Hey, what's up? Hey, how you doing, Ultio? Welcome. But yeah, he was just laying and got right back to it. There was a certain point, Brainbuster on the steps. There was other things that happened before that, but Brainbuster on the steps, and it was just like, oh no, how far is too far, you know? And then throughout the match, you still have MJF continue to regret. So it's full on like, if you were to look at them like a gauge of like heel to face, they were both rapidly, well not rapidly, but they were both gradually changing from one alignment to the other throughout this story and throughout this match at different paces, but ultimately ending up the same amount of turn. Except in the case of MJF turning face, it was really proven to be genuine. Whereas Adam Cole turning heel wasn't genuine. And that's why it didn't happen. He didn't win. Because even when he was taking off the shirt, even when he was dropping him on the table, it was there was some sense of remorse. And the callback to the 5 more minutes, I'm not entirely sure how well that plays out when I really try to think about it. Because in the moment, it was great. You love the callback. The fact that MJF not only did exactly what he did before, but with a positive spin on it. He once again denied him. But it wasn't for the case of denying him 5 more minutes. It was the case of denying him a 5-minute limit. Just like in the case of denying him the match for the championship that could have just been there on the Dynamite after the collision they didn't win the titles on. He said, no, All In's right around the corner. Let's do it there. Worked out perfectly. MJF and Adam Cole is the story of the summer bromance, as Nigel McGuinness referred to it as, and honestly, there is no better title for this story. People want to call it the AEW Mega Powers, because that is kind of, in a way, what this resembles. When you look at things like the stars involved and what they mean to the promotion, but I still think that this was its own unique thing. And that's what makes it so special. I think the more people try to be like, oh, this thing in wrestling was like that, or this thing in wrestling was like that, it hurts the quality of things that are truly unique to itself, even if you can find some similarities. And wrestling's really conditioned us to that. Wrestling recycles so much. You know what? That's a great point that we didn't even think about, Cam. And not for nothing. Here at WatchaMania and the Predictions League, the fantasy stables, we both have Adam Cole and MJF as our main eventers. So you and I are going to be racking up some points. So we still got 2 more shows to get fantasy points on before the league is officially called. So, and yes, that too. It's also going to get some more eyes on it. It's going to sell some subscriptions. MJF on Ring of Honor. Who would have imagined? If you told me that when Ring of Honor launched, and one day it'll have MJF on it. Yeah, right, sure. And Roman Reigns will be there too. So as of right now, Adam Cole is not turned. And what I said last night, I still stand by in that now I think they need to be more unified. Every single segment that they've been involved in together has involved some sort of tease between the two. Oh, I'm going to hit you. Oh, I'm going to turn on you. Oh, we're not quite on the same page like we act like we are. But then they unite. Now I think they need to stay united. And even if there is no mishaps for several weeks, then maybe we have a mishap. But it has no bearings. There's no issue. There's no conflict. There's no tension. There's no stare down. There's no tease. Because it just happens, right? Like, that's just a thing that happens. And then we come back to that a little bit down the line. Ooh, we'll come back to that in a moment, Dara, because I did forget to talk about that. But I don't want to move away from this topic just yet. So do remind me if I get too far away from it. Now, we move into this next phase of the story, of the summer bromance. Because now, it's no longer Adam Cole or MJF as the antagonist in this story. The Kingdom, including Roderick Strong, they are the antagonists in this story. What do they do? What do they do? What, do they keep trying to disrupt it? We saw in several instances, Roddy tried to really push Adam over the edge and make him turn on MJF, and he didn't do it. Do they keep trying to do that? Do they keep trying to egg on Adam Cole? Is the goal going to be to get Adam Cole to be his true self? To be the real Ring of Honor. Oh my gosh. To be the real Adam Cole with this. I saw the Ring of Honor words. That was great. Then winning the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. Honestly, that's exactly what I think this is going to lead to, Dara. Because I thought that it was going to lead to them winning the AEW Tag Team titles when the tag tournament was still happening, when the Blind Eliminator Tag tournament was still happening. But I think this is a better way for this to work out. And who knows? Maybe this could even result in Roderick Strong getting a world title eliminator match against MJF or something. My thing is, this neck brace has got to go. The joke has run its course. We don't need another Bob Orton's cast. But MJF and Cole on Ring of Honor, that's incredible. Wondering what to do in the meantime. In regards to, like... Sorry, I was me thinking out loud. That was actually a thought that doesn't make sense. I was considering doing Ring of Honor watch-alongs for the time being, because my Thursdays are looking like they're freeing up at the moment. Some context to that random line that slipped out. So yes, I think that this summer bromance is going to turn into a fall bromance. And what I have to wonder is going to lead to a bitter winter. Because MJF getting bitter for whatever reason. Right? We almost saw it right there at the end of All In, right? It's like, you never cared about me, you piece of shit. All you wanted was the belt. Like, he started going off because, like, it clicked in his mind. And I think that's going to happen again. And I think it'll be like fully over the edge. There's no coming back from it. And that'll probably happen right around the time December, so he can justify the no, I'm leaving with the belt, and I'm going to get the best money I can get at the bidding war of 2024. That's still a thing he wants to do, and not for nothing, even if the like industry wide buzz doesn't come from it like it was intended to when it was initially referenced in like 2021 or whatever, that's still fine because it's still fulfilling a character beat that MJF has established time and time again. And he really goes out of his way to try and do that. So that I can respect. Now, in regards to that real world championship, what does happen to that? Does Punk just come back around with it when he's not suspended anymore? Does he come back around with a duffel bag and he pulls out the belt with an X on it and spray paints another, like, more sharp red X through it? Like, where do we go with this? I feel like that loses all steam with him having to walk away from that. Is he going to be, you still ain't beat me for this belt? I'm going to be real. That's probably what's going to happen. Because I'm almost certainly want to come back around to the MJF CM Punk thing. But I could also imagine MJF wanting to stay away from that for the time being to make sure he doesn't get caught up in any Punk drama, you know? I almost imagine there are people who don't want to work with Punk because they want to see if he can do better. Like, if he can not get into these issues so quickly. Who wants to have a program all of a sudden just die out and stop existing because the guy you're in it with has problems? I am the real WatchaMania champion. Amazing. Love that. That'd be great. WatchaMania championship. Honestly, I almost made this just a WatchaMania logo behind me, but I felt like it was a little too gaudy. Maybe I could still get away with that. I don't know. Figure that out, and Jon Moxley's gonna win the real. No, but I do think, thanks to Stadium Stampede, we are leaning to international champion Jon Moxley, which is going to allow him to go to, like, Japan and shit and defend that title. I think that's going to really be good for him. Just because, like, you know, that's a Moxley thing through and through. So, with the Stadium Stampede, wonky all over the place. Love to see it. Still had its detractors. It's actually kind of wild to me how many people have spoken out against it because these things were so much fun the first few times around. But, and like this time I felt was no exception, right, Cam? It was really something. Best friends won. Best friends. And honestly, there was so much that led to the story. Like, I feel like there's not enough people who, I said it several times in the Watch Lunch stream last night, not enough people recognize the fact that the parking lot brawl even happening was foreshadowing to Santana and Ortiz. On top of the fact that Eddie Kingston has a win over Claudio, Penta Oscuro got to make an appearance. That's awesome. You love to see that. And the Best Friends get a major win in AEW, which you love to see because I feel like some of the biggest wins the Best Friends have got, one or the other wasn't able to be a part of. You know, Trent got an amazing win in that three-way a few weeks back, and he immediately got the piss beat out of him, which led to the parking lot brawl, which BCC won. And did a really good sunset flip off a broken ladder. Right? Penta really coming through with that broken ladder. That ladder broke, and I was like, oh, man, that's going to be a real blemish on this match. All right, well, let's just try and move on. We're going to do this. Wait for the cut back. Oh, they're on the ladder again. That's the same ladder. That was so good. There's so many great things with Stadium Stampede. It was really hard to knock it. They really went out of their way to put on something special and unique. Not just for wrestling, but for the concept of Stadium Stampede in and of itself. That was Wembley Stadium Stampede. Awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. And say, fucking doing this by. Say, no, you get up there. Alex, hook your fingers. Boost me up. That shit's great. There was another thing that I was meant. But yes, this feud isn't exactly over, because what this is going to lead to now, I believe, we're going to have we got to set up for All Out, and we're going to set up for Grand Slam. Both of those things are coming in September. Does Santana Ortiz feud with the Best Friends? Here's the thing. They've already had a feud that happened very organically. But the thing is, Santana and Ortiz realistically still don't get along. That's the understanding, is that they are just being professional right now and agreeing to work. If you notice, like, when they did that promo on Collision with BCC, they were standing on opposite sides of the BCC. You know, they were as far away from each other as they could be. Almost every single time you see them standing in a group, they're as far away from each other as they can be. So, yes. I do think I do think that time will tell if they're going to even work a program at all. They could work with Best Friends, but I'm not sure where to go with them. Now, Eddie, I'm not trying to just overlook you there, because I'm with you. It's time. It's time. And we don't have time to wait until December for Final Battle. We have Grand Slam right there. All Out, I think, is a little too soon. Personally, for the sake of All In not looking like it is just the setup show for All Out, I want to see as few people working both shows as possible. We already got Darby doing it, and I feel like we're going to have Kenny and Takeshita doing it as well. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see it happening more. But I feel like I'm going to be wrong. Anyways, Grand Slam. I think that gives us time to build Eddie and Claudio just a little bit more, specifically on AEW television, because the last bit of their build was on Ring of Honor. I think we need to establish it to the wider audience. You see, I don't know, Dar, for Ring of Honor Final Battle, because like that's the first week of December, and so if you put that in perspective, that's roughly 12 to 13 episodes of Ring of Honor until then. So if you only build the feud on Ring of Honor, then you still have to stretch it out quite a bit. And if you're building it on both AEW and Ring of Honor, then wow, that's you got to come up with a lot to try and make that happen. So I think Eddie gets the shot sooner rather than later, probably at Grand Slam, especially because Grand Slam's going to be in New York. You know, I think that can be a huge man. That's also going to be another stadium show, not for nothing. So it's going to be great. That's going to be a perfect spot for that to happen. Here's the thing. Is it gonna? Yeah, exactly, Cam. They have a really long feud. So I feel like some might think that means that what's a few more months, but I think like everything to do in the feud has been done. Eddie the only thing left is for Eddie to win. You know, the only way you can stall it out is by sending another injury angle or something like that. Maybe they're gonna have the match and then Eddie gets jumped by the whole BCC and Mox is the one to put him down. You know, so then Claudio Eddie not only has to come back and then beat Claudio, but now he's got to come for Mox, who really made this a matter of life kind of thing. You know, that's maybe not exactly that, because I can't get in Eddie Kingston's mind, nor will I ever try. That might be a dangerous place, but it's most definitely a dangerous place, actually. But I do think that it's like 3-ish weeks away, from maybe 4 from Grand Slam. Perfect amount of time to build towards it. You could even do a beatdown angle to squeeze a few of those weeks out, and then Grand Slam it happens. My only issue with that, does it hamper Eddie's win if he's raising the Never Openweight Championship while he's raising the Ring of Honor World Championship? Not because it devalues one or the other belt, but because it devalues the fact that it's some major win. He just had that major win. Like that, like, I almost feel like he needs to lose the Openweight title before then. Possibly because BCC costs him that title. Actually, that's a great idea, I think. I think if there's a New Japan show in between now and Grand Slam, that's the perfect time. Book a Never Openweight Championship match against the next person you want to have that hold that belt. Have BCC come in and in some way, shape, or form distract or screw over Eddie Kingston into losing that title. Just because, and he can go back after it if that's really the issue. after he wins the Ring of Honor World title. But I do think him winning the Ring of Honor World title while he's already a champion devalues the I never won the championship kind of thing. Because yes, it's not the World Championship you're holding right there next to it, but in a way that does kind of make it seem like that win you got a few months ago that was so heartfelt and so proud kind of is a bit diminished. You can make this win more about beating Claudio than winning the Ring of Honor World title, but I feel like that was part of the stank behind beating Claudio, you know? Time will tell, though, because there have been plenty of times where I've had what I felt like is a very sound and succinct understanding of the story they're trying to tell, and then they introduce a beat of it that I didn't consider, and it completely changes my perspective of how they should go about the story, or how I think they are going to go about the story. This could be one of those situations. So I'm here for it. I'm here to see where we go with it. I love Claudio. I think he's been a sound world champion. He's been awesome. The things that he's been doing in bits on Ring of Honor has been great. Just because you don't see me doesn't mean I'm not here. That's great. The world champion's always watching, always studying, always scouting, always making sure he's at the top of his game. So that way, when it is time for him to step up, he stands most tall. It's great. Claudio is a sound world champion, and I really think that it does a good job in having him be a part of a trios on TV while still being a world champion here, and in the same vein, not taking away from one or the other in doing both. So again, I stand to be corrected because I'm not trying to see Eddie take a loss on the route to this championship match, but I do think maybe he just doesn't come down to the ring with the openweight title. That kind of helps. If they don't bill him as such, Blake Christian comes out as a babyface on Ring of Honor. He's GCW World Champion right now. And he's a piece of shit at that. So it's like, you can still do that in wrestling, I guess. I thought that the digital age really made it hard, especially in the age of the Forbidden Door. I feel like it's really weird to try and work two polar opposite characters in the same region, even if it's two different promotions, you know. GCW, Ring of Honor, they have other polar opposites in who they advertise to in terms of wrestling fan. But if you know, you know, and that's a weird thing once you know. Because like every week on Ring of Honor, I'm like, when are you going to start being a piece of shit? When are you just going to be like, by the way, I ain't got no heart? Like, you know, like something like that. Another thing with Grand Slam, fucking Proud and Powerful winning the world tag team titles. Now that's something I want to see. Back to Proud and Powerful, because what did they do? Maybe that, but they just lost their first match in over a year. So where do they go from here, right? My understanding is Santana still has these issues with Santana, and other people have not worked out very well, and so I'm not sure if Proud and Powerful is going to still be a thing. Yes, but I also get, you see, I think that's a little bit different because Deadlock Pro, that is an awesome promotion. Don't get me wrong, but I also think that at the same time, it is a much smaller scale promotion. You know, you had Jeeves K of the Trustbusters. He was the Limitless Pro champion. I think he was the Limitless champ. No, it was, which championship was? It was like he was the Asylum champion, I think, in Blitzkrieg, actually. And I might be mixing up something about that or not. But he was never walking out on Dark with that title or anything. And not for nothing, I kind of get that. Because on AEW Dark, he's been portrayed as a wrestling butler. You wouldn't want your world champion, you wouldn't want your top title to be on a character like that. Yes, I remember. They used to be a relationship back when they were both in NXT. They broke up sometime after both leaving. So that was the thing. But yeah, personal lives. Also, hello. How you doing, Chris? Welcome. Let's ring Bedlam champ. Why did I get Bedlam? I know why I got Bedlam and Asylum mixed up because I'm a major Halo fan. I'm a Halo Reach. One of the maps is called Asylum, and there's a variant of it called Bedlam. I often get them mixed up. Very deep pull if you don't know what I'm referencing. My bad. But yes, that is legitimately how I just made that mistake. So many things happened. Right, Hex? This show was wild. At the top of the show, at the top of the pay-per-view, we really talked about the controversy, the major situation, the looming thing. Yeah, I know, Chris, but I'm not too concerned about people's personal lives like that. I'd rather be concerned about the wrestling. What was I saying? As Chrissy, I know they've showed me Blitzkrieg several times. We did a few Blitzkrieg watchalongs on their channel once upon a time. Shout out twitch.tv/GrizzlyKid4. You should check them out. They're a fun time. I was on the first episode of their Ico Pals podcast recently. So if you're digging me in a podcast environment, which is weird, I'm not a podcaster, but if you dig me in a podcaster environment, check that out. I did a lot of previewing of All In on that podcast, so it'd be fun to hear my thoughts before the show. Now hearing my thoughts after the show. I'm with you there. I'm with you there, Hex. Here's the thing, though. I think this was all a matter of the downfall of the Outcasts. This was when as soon as you actually go back a bit, and in hindsight, you can see the story they were trying to tell very subtly. Shida beat Storm for the belt, and Storm started having a meltdown. She started becoming this she's distraught. She wasn't operating properly. And that all comes to the point where they both get into the match. And you see it even in the last Rampage where they're like, oh, well, I want to be champ. I want to be champ. And they're kind of like, ooh, we're at this crossroads because Saraya, like straight up in canon, wants this big moment that she did in fact get. But also has been a supporter. If you look at the Outcast throughout the entire time, the biggest supporting role played was by Saraya. So kind of wanting her moment. So it's almost justified that she wants to be the one who gets her moment. So, Ruby's had the big turn in the singles match. She's going to be going into the TBS title program. Toni Storm is the world champion twice over now. So Saraya kind of get that itch. Toni Storm over here desperately wants the championship that without her she feels incomplete. You heard her in her first promo. I feel naked, exposed to the world without my championship. Like things like this. It was so obscene. It was like so absurd, but we loved the character, and not for nothing. The fact that people loved the character, I think, also played into this decision. But then when you look at the story that was told throughout the match, and some people have tried to poke holes in it, and it's like, why would you be upset knowing that it was an accident in the case of Saraya? Because at first it seemed like an accident, but then throughout the match, it started to seem like it wasn't an accident to Saraya. So Saraya started taking it like, no, you're being serious. And then all of a sudden, Toni Storm started fighting back. So now from Saraya's point of view, oh, this is serious. And then Ruby Zoe comes down, tries to stop this because at this point, Storm is getting heated and she's going to really hurt her. But then she's heated, fights off Soho, who has a bit of a temper herself. So, you know what? I'm leaving this to be, and walks out. And then Storm, in the moment realizing, oh shit, I fucked up. As we've seen these situations happen like that, Saraya capitalizes on that kind of thing. And according to Saraya in the scrum, the Outcasts aren't over, but she wants an apology. I think we're still going to get a formal breakup of the Outcasts. And and pretty much like as just explained, when you look at it, the story has been told by them for about a month and a half now. They've really decided this is where they're going to go. Unfortunately, Shida was a transitional champion in this situation. She had one good, I think she had one, maybe two defenses of the title since then. And what really upset me is she lost in her match leading into this. But at the same time, I suppose that establishes kayfabe in the sense that, you lose that momentum going to the pay-per-view. It will harm your pay-per-view performance. So there is a thing there. And it also defies the classic lose on TV, win on pay-per-view philosophy that wrestling is known for, mainly the Fed. But when you also think back to the Outcasts being formed off the back of treating Shida like an afterthought, and you also put into the fact that when she came back around, she teased joining them only to turn on them. She was probably the best person for this situation. On top of the fact that Shida is bulletproof. Britt, she was. But as it turns out, she was more so bullet resistant because a lot of things have really kind of worn her shine down a little bit. And I think her promo that we saw last night or the night before, I forget, was the real start of her getting back to that. And I think what was going to really get her back to that was eventually turning on Jamie Hayter and their storyline. But Jamie got injured and things got derailed, and we can't afford to sit around for 6 months waiting to get back to that point. I do too, Dara. But here's my theory. Saraya's not holding that belt for long. In fact, I go as far as to say that it's going to be dropping that title back to Shida. And that will be okay. Regardless, I think Shida's getting that title back soon. And not for nothing, she probably was never in the books to win the belt to begin with. Because Jamie Hayter was never supposed to lose it to Toni Storm. So this has kind of been course correction. So as a huge Shida fan, yeah, Shida got the Raw end of it, and it's sad. I get you there. But sometimes that happens in these situations. And as a big Shida fan, it's a bummer to see it happen to Shida, but I've seen it happen to a lot of my faves before. Brian has gotten the Raw end of the deal before. Hangman, I'd even felt like got the Raw end of the deal at the end of his run, having to lose to Punk so soon. I feel like Kofi Kingston got a huge Raw end of the deal when it came to Brock Lesnar. Oh God, Brock Lesnar. I do need some haterade. Yeah. Hey, what's up, Mag? How goes it, fam? Sorry, it took me a sec to catch you there. Welcome. Hey, thoughts of CM Punk's run, also his match on Sunday. Went through it a lot at the top of the show, so I won't try to repeat too much of what I thought. It will be there on playback if anybody wants to check it out. But I will say his match with Joe, it was a great match. Unfortunately, one of the people in them is a man-child, or at the very least, all signs point to such being the case. So it's rough. Successfully defend the win. That's exactly it, Dara. I'm thinking, because what I was told, I haven't gone to the scrum to confirm it myself, but apparently there's going to be another WWE pay-per-view. Oh my God. Wow, why did I say WWE? I'm sorry. Saw my WWE payback advertisement there on my playback. There's going to be another AEW pay-per-view before Full Gear, in between Full Gear and All Out, at the top of October, which is actually kind of crazy because that's not too far. I feel like it could have been at least the middle of October to give an equal space between the two events. But nonetheless, AEW is really getting into pay-per-view fever. So they want to do this. I can see Saraya, who still tries to wrestle no more than like twice a month at this point, because just really trying to take it easy with the next situation and warm up to that. Wrestle Dream. Something like that, because it's another, I think it's supposed to be like an Antonio Inoki tribute show, something like that. So that'll be an interesting situation. This one will be a one-off pay-per-view in Memorial. Yeah, I'm thinking so as well. This is going to be, I didn't hear that it was a one-off, but I got the impression based on what I heard is that it's going to be a one-off situation. But I do think that something like, I think that show, you can have Shida win the title back on. I think that'd be fantastic. Or even like Riho win the title back on. I think Shida would be the better bet because she's the one in question right here. But I'm also trying to think, so there are other Joshi talent who could really stand to benefit from a performance platform like that. And not for nothing, I'm telling you right now, they should feature a fuck ton of talent on this program, on this pay-per-view specifically. Because he is proving to be the consistent thread through all of the issues he's involved in. He is constantly acting like he knows best and going out of his way to play roles that he does not have. And when it comes to, all right, first off, like I said, said at the top of the show, so I'm trying to not get into all of this. I feel like it really, in fact, I'm just going to cap it off with this, and that in every single situation he's been involved in, he's not the only one wrong, but he always seems to be the most problematic. The most issues seem to arise from him, and the only time that narrative favors him is either right after a narrative that is unfavorable to him comes out, or if that narrative comes from people who are Punk positive. So that's pretty much where I'll cap that off. Again, there's the top of the stream if you want to get more thoughts on it. I spent about the first 20 minutes of the stream talking about the whole CM Punk and Jack Perry situation, and in turn referencing Punk's past issues and how much I want a perfect world where Punk is not causing these problems or involved in these problems, because AEW would be so much better off for it. It comes back and gets what's hers. I can get that. I can see that, but I feel like that's a full gear pipe dream at most. Last report about Jamie Hayter said that it's looking like the end of the year before we get it. Oh, that's exactly it. He's a veteran. That's what I'm saying. In a perfect world, he gives so much to the business and to this promotion specifically. But at what cost? This was such a unified promotion before he came in, and not for nothing, that was one of the things that he said was the selling point to him. You're very welcome, Matt. I'm glad I could convey my thoughts to you. So yeah, Jamie Hayter, I think, is like end of the year thing, unless she heals really well. And Mercedes Money is healthy if she comes to AEW. I feel that Sky Blue or Saraya would be Mercedes versus Saraya would be an iconic match that I think needs a huge stage and a proper build to happen. Because you know what people are saying. I'm not on this stream. No, I could do that depending on the video and such, but I would want to make that happen on a platform that's more specifically geared towards that. Here, this is just a talk what we want to talk about wrestling wise podcast that currently is really themed about All In, because this is the fallout of All In. You know, we're just about 24 hours out from it now, and next week I'll be hosting another Gablash as the fallout of Payback and All Out. So yeah, I used to do this weekly, but it wasn't something I felt was a space worth me trying to occupy. There's so many podcasters out there that do a greater job of aggregating things on a week-to-week basis. I think when it comes to more newsworthy weeks like this is when people like at our level, like on our level here at WatchaMania, and I say that because we are a smaller platform at the moment, is like that's when more people at our level want to talk about it, you know. Much more casual people, the people who don't keep up with your Fightfuls, your Wrestle Talks, your Cultaholics. AEW All Out and WWE Playback is this weekend. Indeed, it is. I got it running right here on the advertisement. I will be doing a watch-along stream for both of them. But I will always make it clear, I'd rather watch Collision live than the WWE pay-per-view live, not because I think I'll enjoy it more as much as the WWE PLEs have so much fat to trim between the video packages and all of the pomp and circumstance. You know, I just want to go from the match to match to match. Collision is cool. Feels like it belongs where it is. Yeah, Mac, I'm with you there. I'm interested to see, and like this isn't even Punk hate, but I'm interested to see what Collision's going to look like without him for a few weeks, because it turns out him and Jack are suspended. As much as people love Monet, I'm not sure I want her on my TV. Why? Huh? That's interesting. Okay. Oh, I'm interested to hear the playing out of that. Feels like it belongs where. I didn't mean to put a spotlight on you at that, Hex. Yeah, you don't have to clarify if you don't feel like it. I just want to put out there, in case those who don't know, this is a platform where I welcome differing opinions. I don't welcome hostile opinions. I don't welcome shaming of opinions, but I do welcome differing opinions. So if your opinion's different than mine or others in the chat, that's totally cool. We want that here, because that's what helps expand perspective. But we just don't want it to turn into hostile things. We don't want it to turn into shaming people, undermining other people's thoughts, things like that. Which, not for nothing, I have not seen really anything of, but just putting it out there so people know for themselves. So yeah, what was I going to do? But yes, Payback is going to be a fun-looking show, I think. Personally speaking, entirely leaving the WWE thing soured me in her mind. Okay, we'll cover that some other time, Hex. Or at least after the stream and stuff. Personally speaking, the entire leaving the WB's thing, Francine coming in. You see, I don't know about that. Did you? How familiar were you with why she left? Because both her and Trinity left due to mistreatment of the women's tag team division that WWE has since constantly proven time and time again that they're going to continue doing. So, like, not only did they walk out because of the constant mistreatment and what they were about to be subjected to if they didn't, but they stood their ground in a place that they wouldn't otherwise, and it created an opportunity not just for them, but for the promotions they went to. Because then you also look at Mercedes Moné. She is the highest paid performer New Japan has ever signed, ever. And that brought so many eyes to wrestling regions that weren't going to get him otherwise. Same thing with Trinity. Trinity brought a lot of eyes to Impact that were not going to come their way otherwise. So it's hard to say that because Monet, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure, I can, but no notice is what got me. But you see, just well, yeah, unprofessional, but also what's unprofessional is what John Laurinaitis was subjecting them to week in and week out. And so, like, how much is too much before you can justify being unprofessional? Because I think they were justified in being unprofessional. That's what I'm pretty much getting at. And then you also look at how the situation was handled. WWE then immediately tried to, like, shame them openly and transparently by even, like, shattering kayfabe for the sake of addressing it on television because they were salty. Like, so many things about the way that was handled was, like, they don't look like they were the ones in the wrong. But, yeah, reservations are reservations, ultimately. What was one of the things? Hopefully eventually Lynch Trish Stratus inside the steel cage will pay back to Yeah, I'm with you there, Chris. The feud is kind of dragged on. I do firmly believe that a blow off at SummerSlam was going to be the best thing for them, and that's not what happened. So I don't think that it's going to work out very well for them. Well, not what am I saying? They don't think it's going to work out very well for them. I mean, got cross thoughts with something else. I think that the steel cage match is going to be good for them, but I do think that they're a little bit past the boiling point now. I think that this feud needs to come to an end, and then we just need to completely move them apart from each other because to continue them down this path would end up really harming everybody involved in the program. Hello, John. So welcome. She brings something else. She shows. Fair enough, X. No, I get you there. But yes. AKA wifey. I do really have the Adam Cole top knot thing going on, don't I? Well, I don't have he's just as the flop. Sometimes he doesn't do the full knot. At least not unless he's really in the mood for that, I guess. Thoughts on Britt Baker, though? I think she's what... In a way, she's AEW Charlotte, but I think if Charlotte was used properly, I think Charlotte was skyrocketed way too fast, and now she's like this 15-time champion. And in an alternate reality, Britt Baker's a 4-time women's world champion already in AEW, Like, that's something that could have easily happened. Because she did keep getting a lot of shots. She was often in featured programs, but I think she does well in terms of character work. I will say that there have been times where her in-ring kind of, like, 15 times is insane. When you look at it, it's been less than a decade. Okay, Ric Flair ain't do that. That's absurd. That's just nonsense. But when it comes to Britt Baker, I think they've paced her properly. Almost too much, I would say. I think by now she could have stood to have gotten another run or something like that. But Britt Baker... Sometimes her in-ring can be a little bit off, but I do also think that almost every single time that's been the case, something has gotten in the way of it. So it's one of those things where she definitely needs to heat back up before she gets put at that level, but I do think that she's got a lot of time left at the top. I have mixed feelings about it, Chris. Hold on, there was something I missed. I thought, though I'm happy to see, yes, Elite versus Bullet Club happening, and I think that we're going to continue that feud, but I think it's going to be it's a little funky, right? Because I think at All Out we're gonna have Takeshita versus Kenny, where Kenny will finally get that win, and then we'll see the Elite moving proper into a Bullet Club Gold feud, which will probably be built almost at the same time. I'd like to imagine. But yeah, Chris, I mean, I can build talent. Yeah, same, Chris. My only real gripe with the Ring of Honor tag titles changing hands is that Aussie Open had a short run. They racked up some title defenses on the way there, on television no less, and they had that amazing moment in Wembley Stadium for themselves, which is something they will be able to hold on for the rest of their lives. They had the very first match they had the very first AEW match in Wembley Stadium. No one could ever take that away from them. But to see them lose the tag titles to a tag team of two singles guys that have barely been teaming for 2 months in less than 10 minutes, that hurt me a little, because they're one of the best tag teams in the world. You wouldn't do that to Young Bucks or FTR. So there you go, Hex. That's a great way. Both of those teams could build up the Ring of Honor division in terms of building stars around them. And the Ring of Honor tag division can now get a lot of that summer bromance story that we were talking about earlier. That summer bromance excellence can now exist on Ring of Honor the same it's existed on Dynamite. That's going to be great stuff. But one has to hope that in turn becomes a rub for the rest of the division, and not just becomes creating a division to float around MJF and Adam Cole's story, because that's where you enter Bloodline territory. In hindsight, yes, Mac. In hindsight, yes. You asked that should have FTR given up the titles instead of the Ring of Honor tag titles being the ones that Better Than You Bebe won. And in hindsight, yes. With the whole strap wielder situation, especially given the fact that match happened after the incident and after the warrant was filed, there is a very real world where that match didn't even happen because Cash had already been indicted. But them losing the titles then would have probably been better for the story, and you wouldn't have had to put Aussie Open in this position. But at the same time, FTR Young Bucks, that is very historic. That is something that you almost needed to happen, even an event like this with the precedence that it has for the company. So I think AEW, begrudgingly, they made the right decision in doing everything they've done. And nothing says Aussie Open can't win the tag titles back. Nothing says they can't have a proper feud out of this, you know? Because if you think about it, when you look at the match, Aussie Open, in a way, beat themselves because they got real cocky about it, especially Kyle Fletcher. So there could be a little story told about that, you know, getting their egos in check and then getting back on the path. So House of Black losing the Trios titles. Don't mind them losing them because the longest Trios champion is. It's true. It's true. I think this isn't a bad shout. Them losing the tag titles was pretty rough, but I'm sorry, the Trios titles was pretty rough, but I do think they're going to win them back in the past. My thing was they gave them the belts and stuff. I'm wondering if that's going to lead to a face turn. Yeah, the one last one, that's going to be nice. And that doesn't have to be long. They can do like a bi-weekly defense for a couple of months, lose the titles at Full Gear, bada boom, we good, you know? In the meantime, build the next Trios champions to do that. And hopefully it's not just House of Black again. I think these trios have run their course. Let's not see a match between these two trios again. The story to this match was the matches they had before. You know what I mean? So, I think that's there was something else I wanted to cover really quickly before I go, because we've gone a little bit over time here. Don't really mind. We have gone a bit over time. Dang it, there was something else. It escapes me. Sorry, y'all. It's escaped me, so I guess keep up with the Discord. If it crosses my mind, I'll pop it in there. But I will be spending my time after the stream, before my evening activities. It's weird to see JR the guns. No, actually, Dara, that's a great shout. Bullet Club Gold getting a hold of the trios titles would be great stuff. Especially coming, she said, no. You wanted this last dream run, Dad, but we're gonna put an end to it. We gotta put old Yeller down for good, kind of thing. I could see Austin Gunn cutting some promo like that. But yes, y'all, I'm gonna hop off here. I'm gonna go finish up working on the fantasy league the fantasy stable points and the prediction league points. Random 3 favorite wrestlers. All right, one more thing before I go. The random 3 favorite wrestlers. We got Bryan Danielson, one of my top favorites. I guess I gotta say Undertaker. I'm not really happy with some of the remarks he's made in recent years. Very old man-ish, but yes. If you ever followed on Twitter, appreciate you much. Matt. There's also a link to the Discord in the description below. If Discord is your thing, it's a great way to keep up with the community and what we and when we go live. Oh yes, but Bryan Danielson, begrudgingly Undertaker, begrudgingly Jeff Hardy. Again, personal issues have plagued him, but Jeff Hardy was my guy growing up. He was the one he was like full on like I don't want to say idol. That's a bit much, but like I definitely looked up to him, creatively speaking. Like he was such a creator outside of the ring, and that resonated with me because I create so many things. I draw, I write, yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I do, and I can resonate with how he is the same way. So even if he's really had a lot of personal issues, and I want him so badly to get those together because he can hurt himself or somebody else with them. It looks like he's doing well right now, and I want it to stay that way. I'm always there for that. But Bryan Danielson, all-time #1 guy, cannot be topped. Yeah, in every way. But yeah, Sky Blue, the Bunny, and Julia. Wow, interesting 3, Chris. I would have not seen any of them on somebody's top 3 favorite wrestlers, but that's awesome. What happened to Chris Jericho? He lost. It was a great match. He did some things in that match I was not ready for him to do, but he ended up taking the L. But yes, y'all, that is going to be all from me today. Please do feel free to subscribe if you haven't already. Have the bell to always on for notifications. We're going to be going live every day this week, except for Thursday, where we will be still hosting our own One Cameron Zebra is going to be hosting a Ring of Honor watch party when it premieres on Thursdays. But yes. So tomorrow night we're gonna be hitting MyGM mode. We got a PLE week. It's 4-person playthrough. It's a lot of fun. Dynamite watch along, Rampage watch along, not Collision watch along, Payback watch along, Collision watch party on the Discord immediately afterwards, and All Out watch along. We're gonna be making a return with Gablash next week to cover everything that happens over the weekend. But thank y'all so much for hanging out. Appreciate y'all to no end. Please leave a thumbs up on your way out if you could be so kind. Very much appreciated. Till next time, happy wrestling.